Good Wednesday morning. It is October 8th. You found us here on the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller, and I am broadcasting from the 13 News Now studios, serving Southeast Virginia and Northeast North Carolina. But you know, if you've caught this show before, we don't just focus on this part of the country here in the Mid-Atlantic. We also take a look at some headlines from across the country, around the world, and even into space and climate stories. We have a lot of fun taking a look at a wide variety of things. So if you are a weather fanatic or a weather nut like I am, this is a show for you. We're going to start off by looking at some flooding in Kentucky. They had really heavy amounts of rain around portions of Kentucky near Louisville over to Lexington, tremendous amounts of rain, and that led to some flooding. We'll show you that. We've got mid-Atlantic showers, and not just really here in the mid-Atlantic region today, but all the way up through the Northeast. They're dealing with wet weather back across Vermont and New Hampshire up into Maine. They've been seeing it. As we look ahead, we're going to deal potentially with a nor'easter this weekend. We'll talk about that outlook and what some of the impacts are going to be. And if you think about it, if you watched on Monday, we talked about the supermoon. That's making our tides a little bit above normal this week. Right now, we've got a king tide, and you take that and add a potential nor'easter to it, there could be some significant issues with tide levels. We'll get into all of this as we go along. All right, beyond those topics, we're going to talk about Jerry and Priscilla. Jerry is a tropical storm, Priscilla a hurricane. That one's in the eastern Pacific. This one in the Atlantic. We'll show you where Jerry's headed and who's already under tropical storm watches for Jerry. Excuse me. We're also going to look back at some of the costliest hurricanes on record for the U.S. We had a strong earthquake yesterday hitting New Guinea. We'll show you that, and some good news coming from Mount Everest. Remember, there were hundreds of mountain hikers, not people trying to summit Mount Everest, but just general hikers and folks enjoying Mount Everest, and they were caught in a nasty storm. Hundreds were trapped. We'll let you know what's going on there. But again, it is good news. So stay tuned for that. And of course, we'll have a lot more on our local forecast as well. We'll look ahead over the coming week nationally. We'll give you the outlook heading into the weekend. So there is plenty to talk about. We're going to start off, though, with the showers again approaching us. There's a frontal boundary just off to our northwest, but look at the rain across portions of Kentucky. Here is Louisville. Okay, here's Lexington, and we're going to take this loop back and show you this again from Monday. The rain started, some scattered showers, but it's this period of heavier rain. You're going to see it filling in across this area right there, this prolonged heavy rain that set up a tremendous amount of precipitation. Now, this is an estimation of rainfall. Let's take this full. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shuttle it back so you can take a look at what the rainfall was producing here. This is a look at some of the flooding that was occurring across the area. You can see, again, this flooding in Louisville was extensive. And again, we just came off the video there, but the flooding led to numerous problems for motorists. They got more than 4 inches of rain in just a few hours. It triggered flash flood warnings. The rising waters washed out several roads, and one road even collapsed. At least one road collapsed during the storm. Officials saying it was the third wettest day in October in Louisville history. And it was a similar story in Jefferson, about 20 minutes away from Louisville. Fortunately, there haven't been any reports of injuries there, but that city now has a new daily record rainfall, about 3 times that of the old one. Frankfort and Lexington also have new records that surpass previous numbers by more than an inch. So I was taking a look at the precipitation by estimation, and again, there was so much rain. I'm going to go ahead and jog this back, and we'll take a look at the rainfall over the last 24 hours by radar estimates. And as we do that, it should pop up here. Boy, it is really giving me a hard time. The rainfall around Louisville, it came out, I can tell you, by radar estimate over 4 inches, and I went ahead and plotted a few of these on there. We were looking at rainfall estimates, something on the order of about 4.8 inches or so around Louisville. It was about 3.8 at Lexington. And again, these were by radar estimates, some areas over 5 inches of rain, and that fell in a very short period of time. So not quite sure what happened with the map gap right there. But here's the bottom line. They are drying out back across Kentucky. That front is pushing eastward, and we're now going to see good chances for more scattered showers here in the mid-Atlantic. As I mentioned, up through the northeastern U.S., we've had some rain, and that rain continues to be an issue all the way up through Maine. You can see Boston's going to be dealing with a lot of rain. They're already seeing some showers around Cape Cod, but heavier rain pushing into Boston, New York City, Long Island. They're all seeing the rain, and that wet weather extends down for much of New Jersey. Philly also seeing some showers. So a lot going on out there right now. Now, as we take a look at our forecast, we're going to get into it. You're going to see the showers are going to become more widespread. And I want to pick up our futurecast. Notice the winds coming up from the southwest across the mid-Atlantic region. As you can see, there will be opportunities for showers a little bit later on this morning and into the middle part of the day as we go through the noon hour showers south side and down into northeast North Carolina. But here's the deal. That cold front off to the northwest will push through. And once that comes through by late afternoon and evening, and I really think the front itself is going to come pushing through around 2 to, say, 2:30, 3 o'clock. By 4:30, it should be down to the south, and we are going to see the gradual clearing. So things will be looking better and better as we go along. So we do have that to look forward to overnight. It's going to clear out. It's going to be cooler tomorrow, but it will be breezy. And again, I'm going to talk a lot more about what's going on with our local weather in the full forecast, but I just wanted to share that with you. Now, our chances for rain, again, greater from late morning into the afternoon. We dry it back out after that. And if you look at the rainfall projections, we're not looking at flooding rain around here. One of the models, the graph goes just over an inch, so that's why you see that 1 to 2 inch total for Norfolk. We will be on the lower end of that range if the graph is correct. For most of the area, it's less than an inch of rain, and this is actually the model that's projected the most rainfall. When you take a look at some of the other models, while the graph says about an inch, the NAM, the GFS, the Canadian model here, the GEM, and the Euro all have lower amounts. So we're not looking at a tremendous amount of rain with this front coming through today, not here in Hampton Roads, but there will be chances for showers, and it may impact your plans. If you are, planning on getting out this afternoon or even later this morning, grab that umbrella and just know that rain chances are there. Right now, the downtown area not looking too bad as we check in with the Thompson Creek Window Company. Skies are mostly cloudy, and at the airport currently we have cloudy skies, 73 degrees, winds still from the south-southwest at 16 miles per hour. Those winds are going to shift around to the north later this afternoon and into the evening. So that's the change that's coming. Now we're going to look ahead to our coastal system for the weekend, and we're looking at Sunday into Monday morning. We'll take the graphic full again. I want to talk to you a little bit more about this. So as you can see, the main impacts are going to be heavy rain, gusty wind, and potential tidal issues. You need to stay weather aware. So what are we looking at? Well, let's take a look here. And as we come into it, let me show you the model comparison. The area, the rings here that are going to show up in yellow, that represents pressure around that low, this nor'easter that's developing, as indicated or projected by the GFS. That's the American Global Model. We call it the GFS, the Global Forecast System. The red is what the Euro. That you've heard that model. We talk about it a lot. The Euro is in red. So the GFS and the Euro, and you can see how the two models have slightly different solutions, but both of them do project this coastal low. Call it a nor'easter. It's going to be a slow mover kind of coming up here with a prolonged period of northeast wind, raising our tide levels. And remember, as I said, with the supermoon, we've got higher than normal astronomical tides. Then you add the wind and the potential, persistent northeast and east wind. That's going to push our tide levels higher Sunday and into early Monday. So the two models are a few hundred miles apart as far as the exact center of the low. They both develop a low and strengthen a little bit as we go through the day on Sunday and into early Monday. Again, here you go, Sunday afternoon. The Euro has the low, imagine like my hand being the L there, the low right here. The GFS has the low here. Okay, if the low is farther offshore, the impacts are lesser for our region. If it's close to the coast or very slow to move along, we're going to get more. And that's kind of what the Euro's hinting at, keeping it tucked in a little farther to the south, while the GFS starts to pull it a little bit farther to the north. We just have to see how it plays out. There's high confidence now that there will be a developing low, but the question is how far to the east, to the north, to the south. Where exactly will it be? And that's really going to determine the impacts to our region. You can see the rain and that persistent northern and northeastern flow into the Chesapeake Bay and along the Outer Banks. That's going to continue. We could see some sound side issues here with some flooding potentially on the backside of that system, depending on where this sets up as well. You'll notice, again, the GFS, the model shaded in yellow, has that low up off the Jersey shore, so pulling away. And in that case, we could see some kind of blowout here with the winds wrapping around to the west and to the northwest. That would push a lot of the water out of the bay, but again, could contribute to some sound side issues on the Albemarle. So there's a lot of question as to what's going on with the weekend. You need to stay weather aware and keep checking back with us. We'll let you know. The models take it into Monday with the position of that low just off to the north, and then eventually they kind of kick it out to the east and it moves away. Here are the headlines. And basically, there's a high confidence that we will see some kind of a coastal system develop. Again, the heavy rain likely for portions of eastern North Carolina, especially the Outer Banks. You see how this kind of plays out here as we go through the day Sunday and into Monday. And then as the system continues to move around, we'll see the chances for rain. So heavy rain, gusty winds, and tidal flooding, depending on that wind field there later Sunday and into Monday. You definitely want to stay tuned. We could see the rain starting Saturday, but probably late Saturday into Sunday, and then Monday could persist a little longer if this low stalls out. So we're going to be watching all of that. Right now, we're going to switch gears. We go from a nor'easter or a coastal low in the mid-Atlantic back to the tropics. And I'll remind you that we still have a lot of October to deal with. And then November, things really winding down. We are getting to a point now where we're getting a more active storm track. And I know I just told you about this coastal low and the nor'easter, but we're getting to a point where we're going to start seeing more systems kicking through the area, like this front that's coming through today. So the threat of a tropical system coming in from the east and slamming into the area, like I'm going to show you where Jerry is, the odds of those systems traversing the Atlantic and then coming up into Hampton Roads is getting lower and lower. Still, other parts of the basin are very vulnerable, but here's where we are with the hurricane season, and we are going to continue to talk about the threats out there. Jerry is a tropical storm. The next name on the list is Karen. There's one other area we're watching with some potential for development, but the chances are pretty low. Let's get into it. Here you go. A look at Jerry down here. It was looking pretty raggedy overnight, but it's actually starting to look better organized once again. Here are the Lesser Antilles and the Leeward Islands. We're going to be watching that as we look across the Caribbean. Things are pretty quiet. Most of the Gulf pretty quiet, although there is some tropical moisture in the Bay of Campeche. So we'll watch this because there is a low risk of development, about 10% there. And again, we'll check with that. But the Caribbean looks good. Again, the islands kind of bracing and watching to see what happens with Jerry here as it moves along. At 8 a.m., the movement was off to the west-northwest at 23 miles per hour. It is forecast to strengthen to a hurricane as we go into Friday, and then off to the north it'll go by early Saturday, and then recurve. Here is Bermuda on its projected course. It will make a turn to the north and to the northeast before reaching Bermuda. So again, here's Hampton Roads and the southeast U.S. coastline, hundreds and hundreds, about 700-800 miles off to the southeast of the area around Hatteras. It's far out there when it makes its closest pass or its closest approach. But these areas in the northern Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, these areas, they are under tropical storm watch, and they need to continue to watch it because this is forecast to strengthen to a hurricane as it passes just to the northeast of the islands. So hopefully they're going to be just fine. Again, those areas, those islands right there under tropical storm watch. Its system makes the turn and moves out, and we will continue to watch that. All right, here's a look at the spaghetti plot. You can see how all of the models really in pretty good agreement. You've got one outlier here that takes it just to the west of Bermuda, another one out to the west, but these are really kind of the exception. The main packing of these systems, there's a lot of very consistent thinking that it's going to make that turn. So we're pretty confident that that will be the case with that system. I mentioned the other area, southern part of the Gulf, just a 10% chance for development. So not too worried about it, but it's going to be a heavy rainmaker. Even if it doesn't develop, it's going to produce a lot of rain along the Mexican coast there. And as it moves inland, you always worry about the potential for flooding, tropical rain. So we'll keep an eye to that. Now, over in the Eastern Pacific, here's Priscilla still doing its thing. I will say that the center's really opened up a lot. So it's not a tight, well-organized system, still a hurricane. And you can see the winds at 80 miles per hour, gusting to 120. Movement is northwest at 8 miles per hour. I was thinking for a while that it was going to ramp up a little bit more, but it really doesn't look like it now. And it will weaken over the next 24 to, say, 36, 48 hours or so as it moves along again. That remnant low spreading some rain into the Baja. For a while, it's looking like it might produce some rain up into the southwest U.S. Not sure how far to the north that heavier rain will make it, but down across the Baja, pretty good chances there. Now, we've got another area on its heels. So here's Priscilla, another area very close to the Mexican coastline right now that is likely to develop a 70% chance that it becomes the next system in the Eastern Pacific. So we're going to be watching all of this very carefully over the coming days. Want to let you know, again, we'll be watching it, and the best way to stay up on the tropics is to, of course, check us out here on the Weather Desk, but every evening at 8 o'clock, you can check out Hurricane Hub Live, and this is a great show. We run it throughout the entire hurricane season, so each and every day, 8 o'clock, Monday through Friday, Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandagis typically hosts Hurricane Hub Live. And then on the weekends, Hunter Forrest, or if Evan or Taylor are helping cover for Hunter, you'll get that coverage each evening at 8 o'clock with a deeper dive into not only the Atlantic Basin, but also we take a look at the Pacific as well. So just so much great information there. Now, one of the things we also do, in addition to looking at the active storms out there, we have all kinds of different hurricane tidbits and interesting stories. And as we had last week, we had 9 homes collapse into the Outer Banks from the impacts of Imelda and Humberto. Now, those didn't make landfall. They weren't direct hits, but they did cause some, destruction to homes that were kind of barely hanging in there and suffered the beach erosion. And there is costs in the millions of dollars to, recover and kind of clean up those homes that were lost. Even those systems.
Here's a list of the top 5 costliest hurricanes in U.S. history. Number 5 is Hurricane Sandy. Sandy made landfall near Atlantic City, New Jersey on October 29, 2012, and caused around $89 billion in damage. The 4th costliest hurricane is Hurricane Maria. Maria devastated Puerto Rico in 2017 and left behind more than $114 billion worth of damage. Remember, Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. Hurricane Ian is the most recent storm on the top 5, and it passed both Sandy and Maria, sitting in 3rd place. Ian made landfall in southwest Florida and another landfall in South Carolina. The combined damage cost was nearly $119 billion. 2nd place goes to Hurricane Harvey. Southeastern Texas was inundated with flooding. Some places accumulated over 50 inches of rain in a span of 8 days. Harvey caused around $159 billion in damage. And in the top spot is one of the most infamous American hurricanes, Hurricane Katrina. According to the National Weather Service, Katrina is considered one of the most devastating natural disasters in U.S. history. The storm rounds out the top 5 list with $200 billion worth of damage. All of these costs have been adjusted using the 2024 Consumer Price Index.
And with Helene last year and damage estimates still continuing to come in, that one may be added to the list as well. We've had some super costly hurricanes. Now, as I was saying before we rolled that package, those are the types of things that you get when you tune into Hurricane Hub Live. So if you're able to, again, check out Hurricane Hub Live at 8 o'clock for more interesting stuff about the tropics. All right, we're going to turn our attention now to New Guinea, and this is in the southwestern Pacific, north of Australia. there was yesterday a large earthquake, 6.6 magnitude, that earthquake, which shook Papua New Guinea. Now take a look. This video shows people gathering outside for safety. Obviously, you have a 6.6 magnitude earthquake. That is considered a strong earthquake, not a major one, but a strong earthquake. And as tremors shook the building they were in, folks weren't messing around. They got outside and evacuated. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the epicenter was about 16 miles from the city of Leh, which is about 76,000 people. So a lot of folks feeling it. A tsunami warning was not issued after the quake. Thank goodness. All right, we're going to take you now to some good news that we have from around Mount Everest. And as we zoom in, this is where Mount Everest is located, right on the border of Nepal and China. And the good news out of China, about 900 hikers and guides stranded by a weekend snowstorm on Mount Everest have reached safety. Those hikers were up there and set up at a campsite on the Chinese side of the mountain. It's a beautiful place to go enjoy sightseeing, and they were caught by a snowstorm about 16,000 feet high when that storm moved in. In total, 580 hikers and more than 300 guides and other workers were rescued. Some had to be treated for hypothermia. Mount Everest is the highest mountain in the world, standing at 30,000 feet tall. It straddles the border, as I mentioned, between China and Nepal. And again, the interesting thing on this, when you have hikers that are summiting there at Mount Everest, they bring all of these provisions and they're ready to handle all of these crazy elements. In this case, these were just hikers about halfway up the mountain that were at a camp, and they weren't prepared to ride out days without other provisions due to this snowstorm that was unexpected and caught them. So this is great news that those hundreds of hikers and sightseers were able to get rescued and off the mountain. That's some wonderful news. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at our fall foliage update. We've got some new mapping to show you kind of where the colors are coming in, and we'll check out the week ahead. That's after this short break. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. Let's take a look at the fall foliage and where that color is really coming in. How about New England? Now, they're dealing with rain today, and hopefully that rain that's up there right now across Vermont, New Hampshire, up into Maine, it's not stripping the color because the color's really coming in. Now we have high color to peak, and in some cases getting close to past peak in a few spots, but a lot of color from Maine through New Hampshire, Vermont, New York State, northern Pennsylvania, moderate color coming in already. It is beautiful up there. We're starting to see low color now back across the Piedmont. We'll come back to this in a minute. You'll notice high color back across the upper Midwest, Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, the Arrowhead of Minnesota, North Dakota into Montana, and they've actually come through peak and are starting to get to past peak up around the Rockies, up around Jackson Hole and Wyoming there, and back across the Colorado Rockies. A lot of color out to the west. Here in Hampton Roads, if you've been waiting, you got to keep waiting. We don't have much color at all here in Hampton Roads or Northeast North Carolina. But you'll notice once you get up around Richmond, if you're traveling west, you are starting to see some color coming in. Charlottesville getting prettier by the day, and we're going to see more color up into the mountains. I think about some of the wineries up around Charlottesville. Beautiful this time of year. It's going to be very nice. Color really starting to come in now through the Blue Ridge and over into West Virginia. Again, Hampton Roads, little color right now. Hang in there. Another couple weeks, it'll start coming in. I mentioned the rain up in the Northeast. We've got some wet weather back here across the Texas Panhandle. There is a look for excessive rainfall potential. It's only a level 1 threat, so not much really happening here right now, but the potential's there for some heavier rain a little bit later on. Some of the areas around Albuquerque and up to Santa Fe, we'll be watching those areas. For Texas right now, flood advisory right there. That heavy rain has already come through. I went ahead and clicked on this advisory to see, how many people were affected. About 600. So this is a very sparsely populated part of Texas here, south of Amarillo and north of Lubbock. But some parts of Texas dealing with some locally heavy rain. The rain is not heavy here in Hampton Roads, but we do have showers in the forecast. Again, you see the overcast conditions as we look down at the ocean front. Not looking too bad. 73 winds southwest at 16 miles per hour. On the water today, we're going to see those winds picking up a bit later on, eventually gusts to 25 knots, so small craft advisories are up. And we still have a high threat of rip currents for Florida. We don't have rip current threats here along the northern Outer Banks or Virginia Beach. Southern Outer Banks, we have a moderate threat. So the forecast then, we have our chances for showers today. Once that clears, we're going to see drier conditions overnight. Looks really good into early tomorrow. And then as we look ahead to our weekend, we're going to be watching for developing low down here on Saturday. And as that takes shape, we're going to see it moving to the north and eventually impacting our area. Here's a 7-day outlook. Our temperatures are going to be topping out in the upper 70s today, upper 60s tomorrow. Breezy, mostly sunny, nice on Friday. And remember, we'll be watching Sunday into Monday with that weather impact alert, rain, wind, possible tidal issues as well. That's going to do it for the Weather Desk. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.